A vague disclaimer is no one's friend. This podcast will look at episodes in relation to Buffy and Angel as a whole, and therefore contains spoilers for the entirety of both series. If you haven't seen all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel the series, go and watch them before you listen to this. Remember, you've been warned.
The hardest thing in this world is to live in it.
That's why there's us, champions. We live as though the world were as it should be, to show it what it can be.
The Earth is definitely doomed.
It's Tuesday, so it must be time to return to the Hellmouth. We're going through the Buffyverse episode by episode and a look back at Joss Whedon's iconic shows. I'm Emcee, and I'm here with...
It's Andie.
This is David.
I'm Jan.
And we are talking about band candy. Some people are very excited about doing this episode. This is episode 6 of season 3, and it was written by Jane Espenson and directed by Michael Lang, and it originally aired November 10th, 1998. And welcome, Jane Espenson!
Yes, absolutely. My favorite Buffy writer.
And wow, what an introduction.
I know.
Yes, fabulous.
Yeah.
She's still my least favorite writer for Battlestar Galactica, but she's damn good on Buffy. So.
Yeah, well, I have not seen Battlestar Galactica, so I won't comment on that. But I've always been a fan of Jane.
I'm a huge fan.
I mean, I only started to get to know her through Buffy, but as I've seen her like turn up in other stuff, I liked her Once Upon a Time stuff, and I know she did one of my favorite Deep Space Nine episodes.
She also did one of my favorite Firefly episodes, too. She did Shindig.
Didn't she write an episode or two of Torchwood?
Yes, I believe so.
And she also wrote for the...
Stars, the last one, Miracle Day.
She wrote and did some story editing and stuff on Gilmore Girls for a while, which I thought was a really good fit for her because it has that Jane Espenson dialogue. And also she got to work with Danny Strong again, who she loves, because he was on Gilmore Girls, so...
Jane really sets herself up in this episode as setting her voice for Buffy. She starts out with this opening scene of Giles and Buffy in the cemetery doing the SAT prep, which I love this scene. It's such a nice scene of Buffy and Giles together.
There are a couple really nice scenes of Buffy and Giles together before he rippers out. And then even then, there's some great ones. It is my personal opinion that besides Joss, Jane Espenson gets these character voices the best of any of the writers. Just her consistent voices of the characters. I love her.
One thing I noticed is that she does seem to be really good at giving everybody something to do in this episode.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And everybody sounds in character. Like, that's why I'm saying that this is such a strong first outing for somebody. Like, even like with Marty, who, you know, of course became the queen of the show. Her first couple were kind of meh. But, yeah, I don't know how long Jane had been on the show before she actually got to the point of getting a credit. Because usually, you know, you have people working behind the scenes and they'll do some writing, but not to the point of actually, like, being, like...
Well, even, like, here, she's, in addition to having written this, she's gotten, I think, executive story editor credit.
Yeah.
So I imagine she wouldn't get all that if she hadn't been hanging around and doing stuff already.
Yeah, she's such a clever dialogue writer. Her dialogue is always just like so clever and fun.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, this cold open with Giles it's great. And they play the joke twice in the episode, right? About like you think he's gonna ask her a question about like some kind of Slayer stuff, and then it's an SAT question, and they do it. They bring that back again at the end, which I thought was really smart.
Did she slay the vampire with the pencil?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
She broke her number 2.
Well, I wasn't sure if she had actually slain the vampire with the pencil, or if she just like broke it in the fracas.
I think
I got the feeling she stabbed him with it, and then it broke when she dusted him, and that's why she needs a new pencil. Which, of course, Giles just happens to have like a whole passel of on his.
Of course he does.
And I know I've remarked on this before, and I know why it happens, but I'm really getting kind of, because I'm paying attention, getting tired of seeing whenever Buffy, or Faith for that matter, has to slay a vampire, there's all this fighting. And I'm like, why don't you just have a stake? I mean, they're not even carrying stakes when they're on patrol. If they're just sitting there waiting, they don't have a stake to hand. Like, you'd think, you're a slayer, the first thing you would go for is just slaying the vampire, rather than just kicking him a lot.
Yeah, I thought about that in this scene, too.
And they do this a lot. I mean, this, and of course the reason is you have to have an action scene. But if you think about it at all, you're kind of like, you're not really very good at your job.
See, in this scene, it makes sense that she doesn't, though, because the fact that she's working on the SAT questions and they're doing the question prep and all that. So I'll give Buffy points for not paying attention completely because she's focused on the SATs. But I agree, because I sort of thought that too. Like, why didn't you have something pointy out? You know, why to have all this like kicking and it's cool though, because you need the action scene.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing there was probably a stake there that she just forgot to grab, like, in the moment when she was worried about Giles. But Giles is, even though with everything going on, he's completely nonplussed, and he's just like, yeah, you're not getting out of your SAT prep. Here's your pencil. And
here you go.
You know, boy's got a box of pencils just in his.
He's just like, yep. And I'm sorry, that reddish scarf looks great on him. Listeners, this is going to be a recurring theme in this episode. Is just like, I'm just going to tell you what the hottest thing about Giles is. And we've established by now that this is going to happen pretty much full time.
Yeah, there is just going to be some deep, deep thirst in this episode. Just
major thirst.
Just as an aside and also a quick plug, this happens to be the episode that I wrote my essay for Outside Intakes a Stab, which is coming from ATB Publishing later this year. I'm going to say probably in the fall. And one of the reasons I picked it is because that way I got to watch it over and over and over again. And I had an excuse because it was research, in air quotes. Because why shouldn't I watch Hot Giles for hours on end?
Yeah, see, you got to do an episode where there was Hot Giles, and then I did an episode with deep emotional. I did the body, so I mean, yeah.
When we get there, you'll have a lot to say. But see, that's because you're a deep thinker, and sometimes I'm so freaking shallow, it's ridiculous. Yeah. So.
It's just like quelle difference.
Right, exactly. For the sublime to the ridiculous.
I fall into the shallow camp a good portion of the time.
We move on to the mayor's office because they're the only people up this late. I really like that they're referring to Ethan as subcontracting. There is just this mundanity to the way the mayor handles his evil. And it's so beautiful. Going into this cupboard with all of this, like, satanic stuff, and he's just like, where's the scotch?
I love that. Yeah. It's a short scene, but again, it really hones in on what the mayor is about, who the mayor is, how he works.
And this is really the first time we really see what he's about.
Yeah.
Because last time when he brings in Mr. Trick, he's menacing, but we don't get any indication of what kind of mystical crap he's into. And then here you see him, and he talks about tributes to demons.
The mayor is a really interesting bad guy, and we'll talk about it a lot over the course of the season. But he is the first big bad that we've had on the show who's not a vampire. Before this, it was the Master, and then it was the Vamp Trio. And so he's something that nobody really knew, like, what he was. Like, when the show... We didn't know that he was human at this point.
Yeah, we don't know anything about him except he has some nefarious purpose. We don't know if he's demon. We don't know if he's human. We just don't know, which I think is great, and it really builds through the season.
They do a good job of letting that information out slowly in this season.
Who he is just really... It's strange, actually, when you think about it, because they never really give you his motivations for becoming this evil.
He's just a power-hungry villain. Wahahaha.
Yeah.
But it's okay, because he's so different. Like, not, some otherworldly or metaphysical or whatever bad guy. He's, he's, as you said, there's a lot of mundane stuff about him, which is funny as all get out.
Right. I mean, at this point, he is a total mundane villain because we don't know he's actually otherworldly, right? Because he's a big snake guy.
Yeah. Right. We just know, and it's established in this episode, that he is making deals with demons in Sunnydale.
Right, and using a vampire as his go-between.
But we get to the opening credits and then go to the gang talking about the SAT prep.
Which is a great scene. They're light, they're funny. Again, like, I love these little sort of I'm going to say throwaway in a bad way, these little scenes where people are just talking about stuff and we get bonding between our characters, and Oz is there and he's cute and he knows the secret to antonyms.
I'm a little bitter that we were denied Buffy and Oz studying together.
Oh, I know.
I know. That would have been, like, so awesome just to have... Because I'm not thinking of any, like, major scenes between them at least prior to this. And that would have been a great moment.
They do have very few scenes with Buffy and Oz together, but the ones we do have are really good. And I mean, Sarah and Seth are really good friends. And, like, even up till now, like, she does voices on Robot Chicken.
Well, everybody does voices on Robot Chicken.
I follow him on Instagram, and I know she comments on his social media and stuff, too. So
yeah, she's been doing voices on Robot Chicken since the first season. And, got the last time we had a great Buffy and Oz scene is when he's trying to follow the rat, and then she shows up naked, and he's like, it's this really short scene. But it's great, and they have wonderful chemistry.
And it's also, I just like the kind of, Willow gushing over Oz and stuff, which is why, as we'll get to later, there are things that are even more.
Yeah.
But it's like, but the dynamics, at least of the couples, as they should be, work really nicely.
And Cordelia has layers.
And I do love Cordy's line, what? I can have layers? Because you can,
Yes.
Cordy.
She has many
no
layers.
one's going to recognize your layers, but you have lots of layers. And we've already established in prior podcasts that Cordy is a really good student that does really well in tests. So
and she's actually very smart. She just kind of plays vacuous when she wants to, but we know she's an intelligent person.
And that's something that even carries over onto Angel. Like, they treat her a lot better on Angel. But even Angel Investigations does kind of discount Cordelia's intelligence at times. They can think that she's pretty vacuous at moments. And, Cordy's just great. I love her.
I do too.
They end up going into the cafeteria, and by the way, apparently Jane Espenson cameos in there as the lunch lady.
Oh, didn't know that.
I saw that on the Buffy Wikia. Snyder is there handing out band candy for everyone to sell, and Cordelia has layers, and apparently so does Buffy, because she, pops out with this Willy Loman reference.
I
out
know.
of
Like,
nowhere.
it's one of those ones where I'm like, did they read that in high school? Did we read that in high school? I read it in high school, but it was for drama class. So, not in my regular lit classes.
I am not incredibly familiar with Death of a Salesman, but I at least know the reference.
You know the reference,
But
for
still,
sure.
I know a lot of references that I don't think Buffy would. It's one of those comments where I'm like, okay, I could see Buffy having layers, but maybe not this particular layer.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just remembering we actually read it and saw a production of it in high school, but it was either like honors English or AP English or one of those. So I don't know whether or not Buffy would be that highbrow, but maybe she saw the movie or whatever.
I mean, it is a pretty common, I mean, it's not it's not like the most obscure.
Yeah, she's not bringing up stuff like Blood Wedding or
Ooh,
Right.
Lorca,
Cassandra or something.
Might have been a school play at some point.
Yeah, could have been. I do love the line though. I do. I think
It's a great line. But they all have to sell band candy anyways. So Buffy's gonna take the candy to Joyce and try to, hawk it on her. I'm really leaning towards Joyce owning the gallery at this point.
Me too.
I'm pretty positive she does. And I'm kind of interested. I'm always interested in the background characters, but I'm like, how did you get interested in this kind of art? Because it's not like an art gallery, like selling paintings or anything. It does seem like she is selling your more, tribal, statues and this kind of stuff. Because that's the only thing that she's...
Yeah,
in the first
Buffy...
season, it's fertility statues, and then it's the mask that makes people zombies.
And here, Buffy specifically references pre-Columbian.
Pre-Columbian.
Columbian, sorry.
Yeah, so it seems like more primitive in air quotes stuff that Renaissance paintings or something.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised that there would be a market for that in Sunnydale.
Oh
no, I
good
think
point.
there definitely
Good
is.
point. I mean, obviously, I just, headcanon that Joyce has an art history degree or something. Because she goes to college.
That,
She tells a story to Buffy about going to a dance in college.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know, I thought it was, I think about Joyce sometimes.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, and she's obviously a successful enough gallery owner that they have a decent middle class house.
They're never worried about paying bills or, the repossessors are coming to take their furniture or anything like that. So she must be doing well.
I mean, I think there's definitely maybe some alimony settlement or, he's a bad father, but he's probably paying his child support. I don't know. Whatever. But I mean, she seems successful enough.
I'm wondering if it is more of a found art selling almost artifacts, how much almost laundering of like evil artifacts, kind of like the mask, the zombie raising mask, happens at Joyce's gallery. Like these vampires who are like trying to get like some mystical object into Sunnydale.
That's hilarious. And Joyce is just like, la la la.
My God, that's like a fanfic waiting to happen. Yeah.
It happened, and I kind of want to write this fic now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like a story that I want to read this now too, because it's a really good idea.
Oh my God, Joyce and Spike team up to launder money through her gallery. Like, it could just be a little AU thing where they're like, you know, like maybe a season 4 kind of, Spike still kind of, anyway, some kind of thing where, or Joyce doesn't die and her and Spike team up to...
Maybe early season 5 and Joyce has to do it to pay some of her hospital bills.
Oh my God, that's an amazing
like.
idea. Because Joyce and Spike are like one of my favorite, like, minor relationships, right? They're just funny. They're just hilarious together. And so I want, now I'm just like, I want Joyce and Spike running some kind of shady business deal together through the gallery. This is the best. The best.
We find out in this episode that Joyce does love her bad boys.
Well, yeah.
And actually, in this conversation that they get into, when Joyce doesn't want Buffy to, learn how to drive, they're going back and forth. I mean, Joyce in some ways is unreasonable, but also reasonable. But I think, like, the whole thing about this episode is we kind of find out why Joyce is so concerned about Buffy, because it's not just about the summer. It's about who Joyce was when she was a teenager.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'd be like if I had kids, I'd be like, I see through everything you're doing right now.
As far as the driving is concerned, later we will see that Buffy is not just a bad or inexperienced driver. She's an irresponsible driver. Yeah. She is just not paying attention. And it's like, oh my God, no wonder Joyce doesn't want her driving.
Well, Joyce said they wouldn't even let her take the practical because she
failed the written.
On the written.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she said they won't even let you take the road test, which makes sense. So she is an awful, awful driver.
Yeah. Although bringing up the whole "I don't want you running off again" thing in terms of the driving is ridiculous, as Buffy points out. It's like, yeah, I can just get on a bus.
I can take a cab to Sunnydale Airport.
Yes.
I don't know how driving works in the States, but wouldn't she have to pass the written before she was able to take?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think so, from what I remember.
Yeah, which is weird, because how they phrase it is odd. They wouldn't even let you take the road test. It's like, of course they wouldn't let you. You failed the written.
Well, we have established that Sunnydale High has a driver's ed program, so she may have driven the car as a practice, but not be able to take the road test,
But then I don't really understand what the argument is between Buffy and Joyce, because Joyce isn't stopping Buffy from driving.
Right. That was my thing. It's like, you failed the written a year ago. Go back and take the written test again.
Yeah, I mean, I took my road test 3 times, and I think it was 3 times before I passed. It was like maybe 2 to 3 months in between each one, because you have to like schedule it and blah, 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 and you have to like wait. But I passed my written test, but my road test was...
I mean, that's the thing is the written test, you have to learn some stuff. But it's real. I know Buffy's got a lot on her plate, as we may have noticed. But the written test isn't that hard.
No, it really isn't.
No, it shouldn't be.
It really isn't.
Actually go in a car and you understand like general routes of the road. I'd say like 75% of it is just normal driving common sense that you would pick up. It's just the more like, when you have to stop, how many feet do you have to stop before the
there are like a few specifics you have to learn, but they give you a book. They give you an actual book that says this is what you have to learn. And the book is like what, maybe a 1/4 inch thick?
Yeah, I mean, granted, California may be different than New York in terms
that's
of
true.
The written and the drive, but not that much. I mean, it's pretty standard in terms of what you need to know and how
we have established that the writers on this show don't know anything about high school works or tests work or, you know what I mean? Like, they just are like, let me throw in a thing.
I think the fact that Joyce is still, like, overprotective, because it's more Joyce's issue that she's afraid that Buffy's gonna, like, leave again.
There's an interesting linguistic piece of dialogue in here. She said, Buffy's like, she said 2 days before the SATs. That is a kind of thing that people say, like that's also steeped in a conversation. I noticed that because we talk about the linguistics quite a bit, and it's something I do, it's something I know people do. Like quoting yourself. She says, blah, blah, blah. So I just thought that was linguistically interesting and how that sort of... I had a whole long conversation with my mother when we were out to lunch the other day about how language should change.
Verbing.
To explain the adding Y's to things. And my mom understood verbifying.
Yes.
She did get that.
Yeah.
Like, Googling. She's like, oh, I Googled it. But I had to explain adding Y's to things. It was a really fun conversation. And I, of course, brought up Buffy.
Yeah. As Calvin pointed out, verbing weirds language.
That was from Buffy. Yeah. But yeah, it was an interesting conversation where I brought up a lot of Buffy stuff. But again, it just shows how much this show has influenced language. And these writers, who have gone on to write other things. And, like Gilmore Girls is going to start around here sometime
Jedi
soon.
training
They do
time.
a lot of that same kind of cadence of writing and talking and things like that.
Yeah, but the fight, or not fight, let's say minor disagreement, the quibble between Joyce and Buffy ends because Buffy's got to go train with Giles, and the training that takes 2 seconds, and I find it funny and also really sweet that even though Giles works at the damn school, he still bought 20 chocolate bars from Buffy specifically.
Right. Because he loves her.
Right. Well, he's her father figure. So,
Right, exactly.
so essentially her mother and her effective father bought her candy bars. Not unusual.
Right.
It's so interesting to see this relationship, and I think that the writers' room in general and the show staff are really setting up that wonderful, easy relationship between Buffy and Giles right now. I mean, we're going to get some stuff coming up when she's obviously, if we find out she's been lying to him.
Yeah.
But just this sort of easy relationship. They're having fun. They're quipping. There's, and I think that's a really great setup for what's going to happen in Helpless, because we have to show that relationship in its sweetest, nicest form. So we understand the decisions that Giles makes and the betrayal of that and all those things when it comes up later. Without that relationship, there's no basis for anything else.
Yeah, we have to see how great it is so we can later see it go all horribly wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Right, well, that's the point. I mean, you have to set up something to make it. If you're going to set up something, you have to make it to. If you're going to take it away, otherwise nobody cares.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, there's many writers and many shows that all of a sudden there's a conflict with no build up. So I do appreciate that they're peppering this in as they go along. And I just love seeing Buffy and Giles having a happy relationship. And when she throws the ball at his head, dude, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
that's
Like-
so clever too,
Yeah.
because they're setting up this whole Luke and the they use the Force stuff. And
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, oh, she's like completely off guard, ha ha ha, and then she throws the damn thing, and it's like Rube Goldberg, Bing Bing Bing, Ricochet Rabbit, and it's adorable. So that was just like a really good
it's
visual
super
joke.
adorable.
And if you also you think about it, this scene, it's very funny, and this is very much a Jane scene. Like I see her fingerprints all over
for
this.
sure.
But also, it's almost a nice callback, out of mind, out of sight, with Buffy not being able to see, and so she's got to, hit Giles without seeing anything. And then it's called back later on when they go after Ethan. So it's this nice. It's this nice carry through. But I mean, this scene ends very quickly because Buffy's got to go see Joyce, except not. And we've got to get David Boreanaz is in the opening credits, so he needs to have at least one scene.
Hello, salty goodness.
And we have to have our gratuitous shirtless hot scene.
Yep.
Not complaining, mind you, but still.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, though, and I'm not saying they're never objectified in this show, the women, but a lot of the good, full body panning up and down stuff of the characters in this show is the men.
Yes.
It's completely female gay. She's just humming up. I mean, and most of the hosts on this podcast are all about the female gaze when it comes to looking at men.
It's the kind of thing I was thinking of also, a lot of the Marvel Cinematic movies, because it's the same thing. We get a lot of shirtless guy shots, which is fine, and it's nice to have that thrown in there. So and there we have Angel doing his Tai Chi and Hello Nurse.
Yeah, I mean, I could. this is one of those times where I can't appreciate David Boreanaz's, physique.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm not even that huge a fan of his, but when he looks good, I'm not going to complain.
I will acknowledge
I mean,
it.
it's not even entirely the shirtlessness. It's also the him doing the Tai Chi. There's just like a beautiful...
The physicality of it.
Yeah.
And I know you're all objectifying me right now.
Always. We are always objectifying you, David, every time. Yeah. Y'all know that David does this podcast totally shirtless. You can't see it, though.
He's our little token hottie on the thing.
I don't wear pants. David wears no shirt in the podcast.
There is a scene, I can't remember which episode it's in, that Buffy and Angel are actually doing Tai Chi together. And I actually think it's their sexiest scene.
It is, yeah. It is a very
I know the scene you're talking. I don't forget what episode it is, but I know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, so them working that kind of stuff in there, that I appreciate, because I mean, like, he was completely dressed in that scene. So I think I just like David Boreanaz doing Tai Chi.
It's a thing. It's perfectly valid.
He's in the credits. We need to have a scene.
Right.
And these two dorks can never actually communicate with each other.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah, honestly, it's like, I'll talk about David Boreanaz doing Tai Chi, but the rest of the scene may go.
One thing I do like about this scene is, like, I think, I forget when it was, but there was some point where, like, Angel was going to be drinking some blood, and he's like, oh, I don't want to do this in front of you.
Yeah.
And essentially that is, like, called back here, but they don't call it out.
Yeah, he just, like, opens the thing.
He just opens the bed, looks at the blood, and goes, oh, okay, I'll have this later. And so it's a nice subtle version of that, which is not as in your face, which I kind of like.
No, that it works.
And I figured also they needed to, like, just throw in a kernel of angst, because they are going this whole Buffy and Angel thing all the way through the season. So we had to, like, everything's light and fluffy and funny, and then, haha, here's your romantic angst.
Yeah, though I really do feel like so much of the season is just, okay, we gotta have David in the episode because he's in the opening credit, and we've gotta make sure to set him up for his own show. But so much of his stuff is really extraneous because, I mean, like, basically the only reason for Buffy to go visit Angel is to set up that she's lying to both Joyce and Giles, which is what happens in the next scene.
Dun, dun, dun!
Buffy is being super unreasonable. I'm sorry. It's like, with everything that happened over the summer, and I've complained before about Buffy not sharing information, and I know that Giles would probably want to kill Angel, but she's lying to absolutely everybody, and she's lying poorly. So her getting all, huffy about the fact that Joyce and Giles are like, no, you can't just do what you want.
And also, I think also, I mean, considering she is the Slayer and everything else is going on, I mean, at least, especially from Giles' point of view, it's like he needs to know where she is and what she's doing, because God forbid something happens to her. Or, if she gets, like, jumped by a vampire, or she gets beaten up, or she's, like, lying, dying somewhere. It would be nice to know that she actually had gone out to do a fight, or whatever the hell she's doing, as compared to just, like, she's not just, and she's, still, 17 years old, and there's still, everyday mundane stuff that could be bad too. So,
and I think that's what Joyce is also coming to terms with. She's only still trying to figure out the whole Slayer thing. It was only like 2 episodes ago that she found out Buffy had died. So yeah, she's gonna be a little overprotective.
I can definitely see both sides of this, and I'm gonna do one of Andie's, like, what Buffy is doing, if you set aside the lying about Angel and stuff, is very much in line with theories of child development and the stages of child growth. And this is the stage where you test boundaries.
Right.
And it's the stage where it's identity versus role confusion. Right. And so it's like, who am I? What am I doing? What do I want? And in many ways, Buffy, her development is both accelerated and delayed all at the same time because of where she is with this Slayer. But it's just in terms of, like, looking at this as a teenage girl. Yeah. Giles and Joyce are not being unreasonable, and Buffy is being unreasonable, but she's being unreasonable in a way that's very, very, very actually teenage. And so I can actually appreciate that. Yeah, I don't think she's right. I just think she's being a pretty typical, which I think the theme of this whole episode is sort of that, like the expectations of parents versus children and irresponsibility versus responsibility. And so like I think it works within the thematic stuff. So that's my I studied a lot of psychology, social worker bullshit that I always point out.
Yeah, but she's 17 and it's that the whole, you're not the boss of me and I'm an adult now and I can do what I want, even though you're not really. I mean, I think most of us have gone through that period where, I don't want a curfew. Why do I have to check in with you all the time? Blah, blah, blah.
And Joyce is going to parrot it straight back to her later where she's like, screw you.
Right.
Like, I get to do what I want to do. So that's, like, I think that's definitely within the juxtaposition.
I do like how Christine and Tony are handling the whole addiction to the candy in this scene, because they're just constantly eating it. Then, we find out that, the candy is being handled by Ethan. And yeah. And it's just very brief, just like this little reintroduction to him. But
and you're like, what up?
Yeah. That's pretty. But then we go to the next day in study hall, and a really nice little bit between Cordy and Buffy.
I know.
Yes. A nice rare moment between those two.
Yeah, there's no snarking. They're just talking, and I like it.
I do too.
I'm not going to comment on the other thing. I'm not going to comment on it.
It's awful. They need to stop it, and I hate them.
Yeah.
But even within that, the dialogue is really fun.
Yeah.
Dialogue is still really fun.
Like, totally, completely not needed there at all, and I wish it would go away. So.
But with what they're doing and the fact that I've written both of them off, I just want Buffy to interact with Cordy and Oz, because Cordy and Oz are like the people she deserves.
Well, if Cordy and Buffy were like playing footsie under the table, I think I'd like it better. So.
Oh, I'd be totally into that.
I'd be okay with that. But
I'd be okay with Buffy and Oz playing footsie under the table.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm pretty much okay with that.
Cordy, Buffy, and Oz playing footsie under the table.
Woo! Threesome! Yes, please!
As long as it's negotiated polyamory, we're all good.
Yeah, as long as it's all consensual.
Yeah.
Go for it. Better than what's going on behind them. And I mean, I think that's what pisses me off so much. And we're not going to talk about it, but it's like too blatant given the situation. Like, how stupid are you?
I mean, I said I wasn't going to comment, but I'm going to fucking comment on it.
All right, I'm sorry. I brought it up because it pisses me off so much.
No, I mean, the thing is, it's kind of, there is a reason it's there. It's just, again, handled incredibly clumsily.
They had their little fluke, and then they're like, we're not going to let this happen again. But now we've apparently progressed to the point of casually playing footsies under the table.
Yeah.
In class, with their his girlfriend 4 feet or 3 feet in front of him. That's what gets me so mad.
For God's sake, people, it's study hall. Control yourselves.
Yeah. And Cordy looks so beautiful in this scene.
Oh, she looks great in this.
And then she has that comment about it being BX.
BX, yeah.
Right, she's like, I used to use
sweet.
this book. She says the funny line about Giles making her pay her late fees for a book that's like a year overdue. But then she says,
makes her look good for all the college students when she's carrying it, you know?
But that's BX.
Yeah.
I want to know what philosophy text she took out of the library.
I don't know.
I would guess it was probably an intro book.
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I would love to hear the story behind that, because logically, probably an intro book. But the thing is, it's Cordy, so she might just take something at random and go, oh, it's a philosophy book. College boys will like this. And I'd love to see, yes, she's carrying around John Rawls' Theory of Justice or something. And,
it's just like a giant copy of Being in Nothingness or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which I did carry around because I thought college boys would like it better. Like, I love Being in Nothingness. This is great.
I'm not a Sartre fan. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm a huge Sartre fan. We can talk about that.
I love No Exit. No Exit is great, but his actual philosophy stuff, I'm not an existentialist.
I also really like Cordelia's line, I'm bored and he's not here to give me credit for it.
Oh, yes. I do too. and Miss Barton.
Yes.
See?
Oh, she's awesome. She's just like...
Oh, yeah.
And her scene also, or that's the next scene where she's talking to Snyder about coming into the class, right? Or is that the scene before?
That's the scene.
It's interspersed.
Yeah.
It's kind of interspersed.
And how much do I love Armin Shimmerman?
And they're gradually peppering in that something is happening with the teachers.
Yeah.
Like just gradually, he's not full on where he's going to be by the middle of the episode, but he's getting there.
Yeah,
and they did that
so
earlier with Joyce and Giles.
Yeah, I think it's a
as
credit
well.
to both Jane Espenson as a writer
Mhm.
and Armin Shimmerman and the actress who plays Miss Barton, Peg Stewart, and Anthony Stewart Head and Christine Sutherland.
Yes.
That everyone is able to do things very subtly in this episode so that you know that something isn't right, but you're not quite sure what it is until it happens.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
they're
really
playing
great.
it like so well, and you're just like, something is twigging not right, but
Yeah.
oh, it's just Snyder being an asshole today,
Yeah.
and then it's
Right.
not.
And at first they're just really happy because they get out of study hall. So
Right.
Right.
and Buffy's kind of worried.
Buffy's making a face though. She's still just like, because she's worried about Giles.
She's worried about
Yeah.
Giles, so she goes to Giles's, and they're gonna schedule all of her time, and so she's not, sure, but she gets the car keys, so it's okay. So,
Yeah.
Right.
I do love the way it's shot because they shoot it. They don't show Joyce at first. And Buffy comes in and has like a minute or so of talking to Giles, and then all of a sudden the camera kind of pulls out a bit and it's like, and why is my mother here?
It is. It's a good visual gag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, everything kind of like builds really nicely in this scene where you think it's gonna lead one way, where it's like, okay, they're setting up all of Buffy's time, but no, Buffy's getting the car keys. And then it becomes really funny, and then Buffy is super happy, and she's like, you don't have to tell me twice, well, you did, bye! And then it switches again,
And then we're bring out the Kahlua, bring out the cigarettes, bring out the cream owl.
Okay. Kids out there,
Do not
in
smoke.
Listerland,
Yeah.
smoking is bad,
But-
damn, Tony lighting that cigarette is
Hello, nurse.
yeah.
Yeah, no, he's like,
Do
It's just so
3
hot.
out of 4 of us have that exact note?
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
the way, also the way Kristen Sutherland plays the whole thing, because she's feeling it too, especially when.
and then she's just like, this sort of like, ooh, did you think she noticed? It's great. It's
yeah.
I mean, this is the point where we move from, they've been doing a really good job of subtly peppering in stuff about this plot, to, okay, now they're just going to have a ball for the rest of this episode.
For sure. And like we've said in the last a couple of episodes, these one-off episodes, that the monster is not the real, our monsters are very light and they're just like whatever,
It's
babies
incidental.
or whatever. Right, they're incidental because
this
they need to
episode's
be
a great
there,
example of that.
but it just really doesn't. It's great, and I'm sure every single actor on this show was having a blast.
Oh, this
totally.
is actually one of Christine Sutherland's, I think
this is her favorite.
It's one of her 4 favorite episodes, along with Ted, When She Was Bad, and Innocence. But this was her most fun to work on.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, she gets something big and meaty to do, which is great, and it's funny as all get out.
Well, at the beginning of this episode, it seemed like it was just kind of a by the numbers Buffy episode, it's focusing on her. But now the episode switches and you realize, this is actually a Giles and Joyce episode. Because they actually, take up most of the time. Like, Buffy is the one who's still doing all of, like, the heroic Slayer stuff. But a lot of it's actually focusing on them, and I love it because this is like one of the only Joyce episodes, aside from Buffy dealing with Joyce's illness, and Giles, as even though he's been a main character since the first episode, he's only got a handful of episodes of his own. So,
and usually they're like heavy duty, like Halloween or whatever. So here he's having a ball too. And also, I'm going to declare it, I ship Joyce and Ripper so hard, it's ridiculous. It's just like, I
know
want more.
But
I think they're adorable together, especially in this mindset, because she's like so smitten with him. It's adorable.
I gotta say, I can't. I mean, if this were something real, that relationship wouldn't last more than 5 minutes.
No,
no.
But they were having a damn load of fun while they were in it. At least she would.
I have to say, I feel like she's way more into it than Giles is.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I have notes that it's like
you have a lot of notes.
She is that girl that totally, because she says the thing about, do you like Seals and Croft?
Right. Yes.
And then he's like, what? And she's like, no, neither do I.
No, me neither. No.
It reminded. See, this got to me a little bit because it reminded me of the 2 years that I pretended to like the Grateful Dead because all my really stank hippie boyfriends love the Dead. And all the folks I hung out with love the Dead, not just the boyfriends. So I pretended to love. I don't like the Grateful Dead. I like 3 of their songs. I don't care for them at all. In fact, I don't hate them. But I was just like, oh my God, I was Joyce. And I realized that this time through, I'm like, oh shit, I was Joyce. I was slightly cooler than Joyce, but I was Joyce.
Yeah, no, we're seeing that Joyce is not like cool, calm, and collected, and she will like kind of, at least at the age of 16, virtual 16, she's totally like into him. Will do anything he wants because, oh my God, he's like the coolest thing she's ever met in her life. So, because he's a bad boy.
Yeah.
And he does have some great taste in music.
Oh yeah,
really?
Like,
I want to see the rest of his
had a
record
boyfriend who
collection.
listened to Cream, I would have been in like seventh heaven, but unfortunately, they all had crappy musical taste.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean we hear him listening to Cream in this, and later on we do see Oz going through his records, but Oz was so impressed he was planning to move into Giles's house.
Yeah,
right.
No,
Giles
too,
has good. Giles has good taste and
Yeah.
really good taste in music.
I did giggle over, man, I gotta get a band together.
yeah.
While ruffling his hair.
Oh, I know.
I have to say though, like later Joyce references Juice Newton, and I'm like, wait, how does this timeline work? How is Susan Cross and Juice Newton touchstones for Joyce?
Well,
That's also
we'll get there.
Joyce is the girl that pretends to like everything her boyfriend likes, and Giles is that like terrible boyfriend that's like, again, personal experience, that's like, yeah, I'm gonna play the guitar for you, babe, and just won't stop playing and won't communicate with you, and it's like, let me play you all this, oh no wait, let me noodle around on the I realized through this episode, I was like, oh my God, I was Joyce. I was so Joyce.
I think a lot of us have had our Joyce moments, so I get it. But and it's almost like a kernel of pathos because you see her doing this and you're like, oh, this explains a lot, actually.
Yeah, I do kind of feel like, and I mean, I'm not trying to disparage Joyce at all. I'm more trying to disparage Ripper, but Giles is into her because she's there and she'll put out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
No, it for sure.
That's absolutely what's going on. There's no question.
Yeah.
Now,
and you can see later he likes showing off to like somebody who's really into him.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. She's hot and she's there.
Oh yeah, and she does look fantastic in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
She'll look even better. But we did skip over the scene of Buffy driving.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
I do not want that teenage driver on the road. That's my like grown up thing. I'm like, God, why are teenagers on the road? Which is funny because Buffy is actually not an irresponsible person.
See, that's kind of what bothers me the most about this.
Slightly out of character. It's a little out of character.
And also you would think like because she's a Slayer, she should have like good reflexes and stuff. That she actually should be a better driver, even if she was irresponsible, just because of the fact that she's got like Slayer skills.
It's not the reflexes, it's the distracted driverness, not the reflexes.
She's distracted, and it could almost be that because of her Slayer reflexes, that she's overconfident.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm.
And an overconfident driver is a bad driver.
If I was a parent or someone in this position, I would be totally willing to hand over the car keys to Willow, but I would not want to give my car keys to Buffy. Or Cordelia. Cordelia drives, so...
It's really funny. None of the Scoobs ever really start driving. Like, Oz drives. Oz drives and Cordelia drives. But Xander and... Oh, I guess Xander started driving when he became the ice cream man, because he had to drive the ice cream van.
Oh, right.
And later this season,
they don't
get a car.
And later this season, he'll certainly drive in the Zeppo.
But driving never really played, I guess because it was too...
Which is weird, because it's California.
I mean, I think we're supposed to get the impression that this is a town with walkability.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are weird, this is something that actually I don't know that we've hit it yet, but it's not really scene specific. But in this episode, I think there are more people of color in this episode than in every other episode of Buffy combined.
Really?
Yep. There are a bunch of the workers at the thing, a bunch of the adults at the club.
There's at least one pair that are making out.
Yeah, one of the babies is a black baby, and it's like, wait, since when are there people of color in Sunnydale? It's just kind of odd to me because it's not something they make any kind of deal of it. So it's like, it doesn't seem to me like they thought, oh, let's put people of color in this.
No, they did not think that at all.
No, but
I
it's
never
like,
think that at
especially
all.
with, Mr. Trick having just a few episodes pointed out that, yeah, Sunnydale's kind of white. It's like, where'd these people come from?
Yeah. Willow and Buffy get to the bronze.
God.
And we
So
see how
great.
crazy it is. But one thing it's just such a tiny, tiny moment. It's when Willow and Buffy walk in. They cut to Oz, and you see his smile at seeing Willow.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Oh my
sweet.
God, she does not deserve him. Like, at all.
Find a partner that looks at you the way that Oz looks at Willow.
And Mrs. Barton is super funny.
I love
great.
that. I love they think that there's a Billy Joel concert in town, because that is definitely like.
This is the point where this episode starts not being as funny as it used to be for me, because it's like, no, I mean, literally, they're like, is there a Billy Joel tour in town? And I'm like, oh, so 20 years ago, they're using the Billy Joel as the epitome of what's passé. I saw him a month and a half ago at Madison Square Garden.
The other thing I liked is that Buffy has her little, let's do the time warp again joke. So I like the fact that there's a little Rocky Horror. And as we've mentioned before, Tony had played Frankenfurter, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, so there.
I just love, are there any nachos here, little tree?
Yes.
Yes, back in the days when you couldn't actually mention that somebody had been smoking pot.
And I think it's adorable. She's like, the 65 or 70-year-old hippie chick, and it's wonderful. So
Nachos, little tree.
yes.
Armin Shimmerman, just Armin frickin' Shimmerman. He's such a good actor.
Armin.
And the thing is, this is not a side of Armin that anyone ever gets to see in his acting except for here. He's snarky and fun as Quark.
I would disagree. I think he gets a lot of, maybe not like this nerdy type, but he gets a lot of farce to do when he plays Quark.
I was
And
gonna say,
he
there's
does do a lot of
PS9 stuff. Yeah, and there's a lot of like kooky stuff that he got to do.
But
it's also in makeup at the time.
goofiness.
Yeah.
But the goofiness of it, the absolute goofiness of it is just, and his enthusiasm, right?
Yeah, and he's so adorable here. I mean, you actually, for Snyder, you suddenly want to like hug him because he's so damn cute, at least for me,
I really don't think people appreciate how good an actor Armin Shimmerman is.
Great.
Yeah.
Because they think of him and they just think, oh, he played Snyder, oh, he played Quark. But I mean, he's like a trained theater actor.
He is a trained theater actor.
And it shows. He is really fucking good, because you going from Snyder to Snyder,
like Barbarino.
Right, and that's another, as we were talking before, like, how old is Snyder? And like, Barbarino seems a little too old for him.
I mean,
Barbarino was my age, and I was not Snyder's age at that period. I mean, it was like 74, 75, because I was in junior high school, and it seems like he's a little bit older than
right,
that.
but they're not just. Here's my justification for some of this: is they still have their memories of things, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, something you could think something is cool even when you're in your 20s that you then flash back to when you're. And I don't think they're actually transported back to being 16. It's disturbing second childhood. Willow even says that's what she's looking at.
I just felt like
disturbing
from the
childhood.
pop culture end of it, it seemed a little out of his realm for something he would have picked. But
I think it's a great.
It's funny anyway. But
yeah, I have to say, I'm not going to go into it a lot because it is a tremendous mess trying to tease this out. But the mechanics of this whole the whole candy thing, I have no idea how this all works.
It's a curse.
No, I don't either.
It really
I don't
makes
either.
no
It's a
sense.
But that's okay. It's cursed chocolate and move on.
No, of course. But yeah, plot wise, it just works. But if you actually think about it, you're just like, wait, what?
Yeah, I don't think about it. It's
and
a
I'm
phlebotomy.
not. There's too much to tease out, so I'm not even going to
Have
try.
some chocolate and mellow out.
Yeah, it's phlebotinum brand chocolate.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's more, it's not that they're reverting back to a certain age. It's like their inhibitions are lowered and their reasoning skills, which leads you to believe immaturity, right? But yeah, it's just, that's basically just putting all the parents and the adults on freaking acid. Basically, it's like acid chocolate
Without the full-blown hallucination part.
Yeah, well,
but,
I mean, like, Joyce says that, she remembers everything. She remembers having Buffy and being married, but it kind of feels like a dream, like it's not real.
Right.
So she just feels like she's a teenager. And as for like references to Welcome Back, Kotter, I mean, we don't know how old Snyder is, and also like if he was in college or something at the time, he's enough of a loser that he probably stayed home to watch.
Stayed at home and watched Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yeah, I was saying anything is possible. It just kind of like tweaked me slightly off, but that's okay. Like I said,
I mean,
we'll eat chocolate and mellow out and not worry about it too much.
But and also just think about his line. There are some foxy ladies here tonight. Armin.
See, that's perfect.
God, so great,
perfect.
And just the way he kind of struts off to get them is just like, as we were saying, he's such a fun actor, and it's not just the verbal stuff; it's the physicality, which is something I think he brought on Deep Space Nine too. There was a lot of stuff that he got to do underneath, latex masks and stuff. So he's just a brilliant physical comedian too.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Yeah, but I think I'm going to make it a habit of walking into rooms and go, there are some foxy ladies here tonight.
Next time I see you, you better say that.
I feel like that either needs to be like a con ribbon or it needs to be a shirt now.
Porn stars. They were porn stars.
Porn stars, yes. I was just thinking that.
And then we get another little scene of Ethan and Trick together where we, Mr. Trick's warning. Well, first of all, Mr. Trick looks amazing in that suit. Like, I really like that purple shirt. And he's a nice dresser.
Oh, he's very sharp dressed man. Yeah,
It's been established that he has the best suits.
Yes.
He really does.
He's like a snappy dressed vampire dude.
He's a hottie. I'm realizing how much Trick is a hottie through this rewatch. I was always like, he has a good looking guy. But this rewatch, I'm like, damn, K. Todd Freeman, I am into you.
Yeah. Now everybody else will know not to steal any candy. I like it. I mean, it's horrible, but also, I mean, he's a vampire. Of course he's going to do something terrible. And it's a very quick scene, and then we go back to the prawns and more of the gang. Well, now it is a gang because it's not just Willow and Buffy being all weirded out, but Oz is with them now too.
It's just like, what's happening?
And Snyder's, you've got great hair and just walking around Oz and just staring at him. I'm sorry, listeners. Like, this episode, a lot of it is just going to be, this part is really funny.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, just like the again, like physicality, the look, the movement, and just Seth's face, like, what? It's great.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this episode probably had to have a lot of takes because there was probably a lot of cracking up.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know they haven't really Buffy gag reels. I mean, there are a few of them out there, but they're real minor and they're not a lot of because that wasn't like a huge thing to do is like release the gag reels like they are. Like Supernatural always releases the best gag reels. Yeah. Good Place, the Good Place gag reel is also really good, and the Parks and Rec gag reels are amazing. But that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, Buffy mostly I remember gag reels of like stunts that like
the stunts that didn't go right.
Angel had a couple. They did a couple good gag reels for Angel.
Yeah, because David Boreanaz is fucking funny.
Yeah, he really is. He's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, that wasn't a thing to release them as much as they are now. But I mean, there is a Buffy gag reel. You can find it on YouTube, but it's not all that entertaining.
But I agree. Yeah, the gag reel for this episode that doesn't exist, probably, the virtual one must have been great.
Yeah, but they decide to go off and find Giles, and Snyder's gonna go with them.
I'm amazed he didn't try to call shotgun. I mean, it's just like the way he just like gets into that car and he's just like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And then he says the most problematic thing ever, but the way he says it is so great that I'm like, oh. And I don't think that was something that was considered problematic language.
No, it was not.
No, it wasn't at all. I mean, it was just a thing you said.
Even a couple of years ago, I mean, like, the longer form of that word was used in a Weird Al song, and it was only then that it really, articles and think pieces were written about how it was not a good word to use. So I think definitely in 1998 that nobody thought anything of it.
But I understand it was a lot more of an offensive word in the UK than it was
I was just about to say that.
In the United States up until recently. And listeners, it's the SPAZ word we're talking about. Then it's how Buffy drives.
Yeah, because in the UK for a long time they used that instead of like somebody with cerebral palsy, etc. So it was kind of like a throwaway, but it was considered much more of a slur there, even back like in the 60s as compared to in the US where it was just kind of like, if you said you had a spastic colon, that's what they used to call IBS back in the day. I mean, I had that diagnosis. So it was not considered offensive back then, and then in the shortened form, but these days now it's not a nice thing to say.
But Armin's delivery of it is still just so priceless that you're like, oh
it's the problematic fave line of the episode.
It is I mean, it's one of my favorite lines, but I know it's problematic now, so I'm not going to repeat it, but it's great.
Yeah, well, because also you can't deliver it as well as Armin Shimmerman can, because
right.
Well, nobody can.
And we see the chaos going on in town, and it's really nice that actually they take the time to be like, oh yeah, Oz doesn't know about Giles's history. It's not like wrote that he knows.
Right, so he's just like, yeah, everything's fine. I'm sure he was a great... Oh, shit.
Again, this is where we get into how the mechanics of the spell works, and I'm not going to go too far into it, but it was always my understanding that maybe Giles didn't go fully rebel like this until he was out of what we call high school. It was more in his 20s. But again, the candy basically makes you just irresponsible and make poor decision-making skills, so I'll go with it.
Right, and it just, as you said, loosens your inhibitions, kind of gets rid of your filters and stuff, so. Whatever, it's an excuse for Tony to use his original accent, for him to suddenly be wearing an earring, and to wear a white t-shirt and look freaking adorable.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, with Giles having an earring, he's always had an earring hole. He's just wearing an earring.
Yes. Yeah, but it's like suddenly came out of nowhere that I suddenly like, oh, look, he's got a little gold loop in his left earlobe.
It's Tony's earring.
Yeah.
Like, but we've pointed it out, I think, on the podcast, so you can see the earring hole in Giles's ear. So I guess it is pretty canonical that Giles had an earring at one point in his life. He just does not wear it anymore.
Right,
so
we won't worry about like whether the hole closed or, blah, blah, blah.
I'm wondering for this episode, do you think that when they broke the episode, it was kind of, let's do an episode where Giles becomes Ripper again? Or did they or was it just like, let's have the adults become teenagers? I'm kind of wondering. I kind of think that let's have Giles become Ripper was the
impulse for the
episode.
Sure. Yeah, we want to see this. Yeah, no, I mean, who wouldn't want that as the basis of an episode?
Yeah, and they're out and they're walking, and we see the mark of Igon tattoo on Giles.
Yes, really, that's really good continuity. They didn't forget about it. So
and Giles breaking into the store to get the very juicy coat.
Oh my god!
I love how Joyce goes, oh, "That's so brave." I'm like, "Yeah, that window was really menacing."
I know, right? I know. But yeah, no, I mean, it's like the opposite of. There's nothing brave about it.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I just love his like, "Oh, you want that coat? Okay." Smash. I love it. It's just like,
so all the references Joyce makes to music, it's really an ingenious way of setting up that she's not that cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? So she talks about Seals and Cross. She talks about Juice Newton. Now I kind of just want to sit around and sing Angel of the Morning because that was the big Juice Newton song. Listeners, especially younger listeners, Juice Newton was a country pop crossover person that had all her big hits in the early 80s, including Angel of the Morning and Queen of Hearts. Right. So there you go. There's your trivia.
And I have to say that coat is fucking awesome. I would want somebody to steal it.
I would totally.
It looks so good on her. It would look terrible on me because I'm too short and round. But it's an awesome, awesome piece of clothing.
Christine looks gorgeous in this episode. The way they did her hair and her makeup, and they did make her look much more youthful than Joyce usually looks.
Right, and even the mini skirt and the boots and everything, just like the costuming on her is fabulous.
Yeah, she is a gorgeous, gorgeous lady. And I was actually, I was cleaning up, reorganizing my Buffy action figures, and I was looking at my Joyce figure that they have, and it's from School Hard. And I got really, really mad that they did not make a Joyce from this episode.
Yeah, that would have been excellent, because she just looks so amazing in this. And like I said, I ship this Giles and this Joyce because they're just so ridiculous.
And she's her saying, "You're like Burt Reynolds."
Oh yeah,
again, like a little bit of a nerdy.
Yeah.
I mean, Burt Reynolds was the height of hot, though. at one point.
In like the middle to late 70s.
Middle to late 70s, right?
By the 80s, so he, especially by the 90s, he was kind of like not anymore. But
he's also very much not what Giles is.
Right, exactly.
Right. No, Giles is like trying to think of like a hot celebrity from the 70s or early 80s that Giles is.
Well, it's like he's a smart
from the
Sid
Flash.
Vicious. Yeah. Maybe Joe Strummer, but better looking. Or
he's definitely.
Yeah, no, he's Giles.
Yeah, and Giles, or I should say Ripper, gets into a fight with the cop and gets the gun and then takes the girl and
snogs her.
He does a little more than snogs her.
He does not snog her. He does a way more than that.
Well, yes, but initially,
twice.
Yes. Well, he starts out snogging, and then they hit the roof, the hood of the car. So,
and then there's a tasteful pan away.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? I didn't fully get it. I was like, did they do it? Did they not do it? Like, yeah, there's a reference to it at the end of it, but like you don't get 100% confirmation of it till earshot.
Yeah, well, because they're running around later and they're still fully dressed and they look exactly the way they did. Nothing's like out of place. So,
and then they also did it in public.
Yeah,
it
on
wasn't
top of
just
a cop's
like
car.
On top of a cop car.
That's really public.
Yeah,
that is.
I do actually reference
really
that
public.
in my essay. Because that's my assumption, but it's just like, and later on, like I said, nothing is out of place, nothing's on backwards, nothing looked, so it must have been really, really fast and, whatever.
Well, Giles is a teenager right now.
Right, exactly.
True. That is true. That is true. I don't know if it was the best. Actually, no, because Buffy hears in her mom's mind that the sex was really good. So,
he's a stevedore.
Yeah.
He's a stevedore.
What's a stevedore?
Tony looks so good. I just cannot stress how much I am attracted to Ripper.
Oh God, me neither. It's just everything about him is just like sex.
Okay, well,
I never want to date that boy anymore. But God bless. I think it's because I imprinted on guys wearing white t-shirts with flannels around their waist in the 90s. So now I just automatically find that like super hot.
I'm more about just the fact that he's like, a London bad boy with an earring, which I imprinted on. No, in the 70s. So yeah. If you're out there, boys.
we will have more time to talk about the hotness of Giles. Now we'll move on to Buffy figuring things out. Buffy's so smart.
She is so smart.
She figures everything out.
Her friends are smart. And there is a shorthand where...
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Shut up, Xander.
And Snyder's cute. I got a curse. And we get a reference to Oz's parents.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I think probably the only reference to them in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Buffy and Snyder go off to go find the chocolate, but instead Buffy finds Ripper and Joyce making out with each other. And I'll hand this to Ripper. He knows well enough not to get into it with Buffy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I love that he plays it off and he starts going through his hair and grabs a cigarette out. But like, yeah. She's like, do you really want to fuck with me, Giles? And he's like, no, I really, really don't. I am not.
I'll think you're going to have a cigarette instead then.
Yeah. I'll think I'll have a cigarette instead, yeah.
I wasn't quite keen on Giles calling the chocolate candy.
Yeah, he would have said sweets.
Yeah.
Probably. But it's one of those things where it's like an American show, so they make the British people say American words anyway.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was watching the other day. Oh, it was a rerun of Heart to Heart, don't ask why, but Patrick M'Nee was on, and he kept saying schedule, and it was like making me a little crazy too, but American TV, so.
Yeah, but it was just something that stuck out to me because
you're right.
it did not sound right.
If Joss has written this episode, he would have said sweets.
Yeah.
Because Joss is such an Anglophile, but since it's Jane, it was Candy. And the name of the episode is Banned Candy. So
I was going to say, because it is specifically banned candy, and that obviously is a known term to everyone in the school. Maybe that's why it went that way.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
Yeah, it's just a minor niggle, but you're right.
Yeah. Buffy gets really creeped out by Joyce and Ripper, and so she's just gonna instead go in to figure out what's going on, and she confronts Ethan.
Well, I think we probably need to address like what Joyce says to Buffy there.
Basically where she tells Buffy to fuck off, yeah.
Yeah, she tells Buffy to screw yourself, and if you're going to be
you want to do
slaying and I have no... Right.
I want to do chocolate.
Right, so I think that, I mean, it sets things up from their prior conversation, and because this isn't actually taking her back to being 16, but it's lowering inhibitions, in that moment, I think Joyce is honest, not in a parental way, in a way a parent would say it, but in a way that the Joyce really means it.
If you think about what Joyce, as a single mother living, working mother, etc., and the fact that she's not allowed to do things that she wants to do because she's trying to be a good mom and, a responsible mom, etc., and also setting an example for Buffy. Yeah, this is a time where she's suddenly like, you know what, screw you. I've given up stuff too, and I've had to watch you, and I've had to blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think it's a good character moment.
It's also showing that Buffy, besides the car thing, is a responsible teenager. Actually, all the kids are responsible teenagers, and they do teenage stuff. And I will definitely point out when it's like a really a really just bad motivation thing for the kids, and when what they're doing is very much on the line of what teenagers do. But all the kids in the Scooby Gang are pretty responsible, except for Xander, pretty responsible kids. And so it is that contrast of absolutely out of control Joyce and Giles, as opposed to Willow and Cordy and Buffy and Oz figuring things out and taking charge of the situation in an adult way. So
definitely,
Well, this will not be the first time we've observed that, adults in Sunnydale are useless.
Yeah, but Buffy doesn't have time to really get into it with Joyce. She's going to go into the building, and she's going to bring Joyce with her because she doesn't want Joyce and Ripper making out with each other anymore.
Right.
She would rather bring Joyce into potential danger than have Joyce and Ripper make out.
Perfectly reasonable for a teenager, I think.
I was going to say that there's something really real about this, about the fact that teenagers tend to forget that adults have sex and parents have sex, and they're grossed out by the concept of it too, because somehow parents are not, they're supposed to be above that or something. But it's a very teenage thing especially if you have a single parent.
Okay, do you think Willow is super regretful that she never got to see Giles fully rippered out?
Yeah.
Because of her insane crush on Giles. Because when everybody else is like, Giles is old, ew, thoughts about Giles and sex, Willow's like, nah, no, that's good. So
Willow would try to play off that she doesn't find Ripper attractive, that she'd be weirded out.
Well, and actually maybe Willow actually finds Giles attractive.
Yes.
Steady, kind, smart, knowledgeable research man. Maybe she actually finds that more attractive than Ripper. I don't know.
I mean, just looking at the people that Willow dates, she doesn't really seem to have a bad boy thing.
She doesn't.
Well,
or a bad girl thing.
Well,
Kennedy a little bit, but
we don't speak of Kennedy.
I always think about that line in Doppelgangland when she meets Vampire Willow, and she's like, what's the line? I think I'm kind of
I'm skanky and mean, and I think I'm kind of gay.
But Willow does have really kind and sweet partners.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. But I think there is a sort of I think Willow mostly buries the bad boy attraction, but it's there.
Well, come on.
In her relationship, she's the bad boy.
Yeah, I mean, when she's an evil vampire, she's with vampire Xander. So I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Terrible.
She's the bad boy, not the partner.
Yeah, right. But Buffy confronts Ethan.
Come on. You don't expect the Slayer is going to get involved with this. You don't realize that, Giles is going to revert to being Ripper.
Oh, well, I actually think that this is the real flaw of this episode. It's okay, so you've distracted the parents,
Yeah.
but you haven't distracted Buffy at all. Like,
Right.
Or her friends, or even if you think about it, they haven't even like any other teenagers. So they're kids who are like babysitting their little brothers or sisters or something.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the
Yeah.
plan ignores the fact that there is a Slayer in this town.
yeah,
Right.
It's like, and the mayor knows there's a Slayer in town. Trick knows there's a Slayer in town, and Ethan certainly knows there's a Slayer in town.
Right. And Ethan
So
also knows not only is there a Slayer, but she's got the backup team who does all the research and stuff. And if so, they'll find a way to fix this.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
he
he's
also
just
knows-
really hard up for money, and he's like, okay, I'll do it.
yeah.
And he also knows that she will fuck him up. And not only will she fuck him up, Ripper's gonna fuck him
I
up.
was gonna say, the thing that I find really funny about this confrontation is that Ethan doesn't run when he sees Buffy. He runs when
No.
he
He
sees Ripper,
sees Ripper.
and he realizes
Yeah.
that he's Ripper.
He sees the earring and knows immediately. Right?
And the,
And just like Giles is, I'm sorry, Ripper is so hilarious because he's just like, hate him, knock his teeth out.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're my
Hilarious.
Slayer, do what I say. It's like,
Right.
it's so.
and then
It's
like his
so
reaction,
funny.
she does hit him.
Yeah, he's
When-
dancing around in the background.
He just like punches
And
up in
he's
air.
the way he says, the way Tony says yes, and then bites his little lip.
Oh,
But I think, like, the scene with Buffy, like, you can really see, like, Ripper as a teenager. Like, he's
Yeah.
definitely, like, it's not like this cool, he's just giddy and just, like, very
Yeah.
childish.
and
Right,
damn you,
he's not-
Joss, for not giving us our Ripper spinoff.
That's not wasn't Joss's fault. That was the BBC's.
Is BBC?
That wasn't gonna be what they were gonna do. It was gonna be called Ripper, but they weren't gonna, it was still gonna be Giles.
Huh,
I mean, I
I'm
just remember
suddenly wondering.
hearing news about it, not really like the content, but
It was a thing with the BBC and the rights and stuff. So that was a lot of it. It was
Yeah.
not Joss's fault.
Yeah.
I feel like blaming Joss anyway. So
Yeah, I do too. But in this case, you know, this isn't like calculating, let's do a spell and an orgy Ripper. This is just like teenage Giles
Yeah.
that wants to see the violence.
yeah,
you
he's just
know?
like suddenly like Mr. Punk Rocker and let's go smash stuff. You know, it's
Yeah.
like he's turned into Sid Vicious. You know, like
He's
Well,
moving
actually-
on to spike.
My question is,
Yeah.
are they like I don't know if this is this has occurred to me before or if I mentioned it before, but of course now I'm suddenly going like, did they base this on John Constantine?
oh, good question, very good question.
Because that's just like
and timing would make
obvious.
sense too. Yeah,
and
because
the timing works.
yeah, Constantine was like it was like late 80s, very early 90s because Sandman started around 89, 90, and I know
Right.
like all that
And he
Vertigo
first
stuff was done.
appears in Swamp Thing. So
Yeah.
I mean, and this is totally Constantine's backstory. Like, just like, you know, punk rocker gets involved with magic. It's just, I mean, it's totally,
Mhm.
Even down to the cigarettes, yes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well,
And the only thing is, I guess Constantine might not have worn a trench coat as a kid, but you know,
I think, like, the thing that you can definitely tell that it's not like their minds were transported back to when they were teenagers and that they still retain their memories and everything is that Ripper totally wants Buffy to hit Ethan. It's
Right.
like he's still got all of that adult animosity towards Ethan rather
Mhm.
than seeing him as a friend.
Right. And then it's interesting that he lets Buffy, but he's not the one doing, I mean, he does a little bit of hitting, but he actually lets his Slayer kind of take over and do the wailing on him, not the other way around. I mean, Buffy is trying to hold him back. But,
Yeah.
he doesn't
yeah.
do much hitting. He just pulls a gun on him.
and
Yeah.
puts it
And I
on the
also-
side of his neck, like and as much
I
as I
also
hate
love-
guns, as much as I hate guns, I have to say he looked damn sexy doing that too.
Yeah, he does. And I love that Snyder is telling people he took Taekwondo with a Y.
Yes.
And like,
Which-
you know,
Which for me works as a nice callback to the Tai Chi scene with Angel earlier.
Yeah, I actually did think of that too. There are some scenes intercut with this involving the Scoobs at the library, and I think we're mostly ignoring them because they're mostly exposition, and also there's more Willow and Xander bullshit. So I'm mostly just acknowledging that they're there.
Yes, my
Yeah.
my notes at
And-
this point says in all caps, kill this storyline, kill it dead.
and also Snyder hitting on Joyce.
hitting on
you
Joyce,
guys, so you guys go and study, and
she is so great.
I just like, she doesn't even say anything, just the looks she gives him, and like the little shift away is just like, I love you.
It's like, I mean, it really is like, it's just vocally, it would just be, ugh.
Well,
like,
and it also calls back to something that what Buffy said to Snyder a few episodes back about like, oh, you never got
what
dates
is the
in
exact
high school,
line?
Right. You never got a single date in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that we have not mentioned that I think is really interesting is that Snyder is the one that brought the band candy into everybody's lives at the school. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he was affected by this,
and I don't think he knew that it was cursed.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying is that the fact that he was affected by it, that he ate the candy, actually kind of pulls him out of the whole, conspiracy that's going on with the mayor. Like, they were setting up this whole him being involved, but we can see now that, no, Snyder's not involved. He's just kind of like this, intermediary fall guy.
He's only involved as far as the mayor needs him to be involved.
Yeah, right. He's not
part of the group. He's just he's a tool, basically.
Yeah. Which actually makes sense in terms of Schneider and the fact that I think he thinks he's more important and more in with the mayor than he really is, and this kind of proves it.
The mayor shook his hand twice.
Twice, yeah. He said, I got a commendation from the mayor. He shook my hand twice. So, yeah, he's not... He's an intermediary for nefariousness, but he doesn't know what the actual nefariousness is.
Right, yeah. But, I mean, it wasn't until this point that I think we really knew that, because, I mean, they had mentioned that Snyder knew that they were on a Hellmouth, and Snyder helped cover up, a vampire attack, so...
Actually, I know that as well, yeah.
Yeah, there was kind of this... is Snyder involved in all of this? But the fact that he was affected by this spell, that he was allowed to eat this candy, just goes to show that he, and also
he's not as important as he thinks he is.
Right, exactly.
They get a little bit of information from Ethan, and then they get more information from Willow. And yay, Oz is the one who found the information on the demon.
I love it. I know.
Yeah, I don't know why. There's something so endearing about him, like, pointing stuff out as Willow's, like, talking on the phone and reading it out. And I don't know why, just, like, a really sweet moment between the two of them.
Everything Oz does, we will find endearing.
Right, well, true. What am I thinking?
Giles is always hot. Oz is always adorable. As those two go, there go my nation.
And Cordy is usually pretty damn impressive.
They got to figure out a way to tie up Ethan or something. And so Joyce is gonna help out.
I know.
And we have our first song moment. Handcuffs. Why is it always handcuffs?
My favorite line of this whole thing, not favorite line, my favorite delivery is when Joyce is like, Willow wants you real bad. That is like one of my favorite deliveries. Christine's delivery there is just so, Willow wants you real bad. Like I can hear her, tongue popping and clicking.
And I love her physical acting when she pulls out the handcuffs by her thumb, and she's got this sheepish look on her face.
And she's kind of just like holding them like, hello.
Yeah. And I'm like, whose idea were the handcuffs? And how were they
used? The funny thing is, I question whether they actually used them for anything odd, or if they just took them off the cop.
Well, I think they took them off the cop, and I think maybe that was the plan for later.
That's my theory, that she wanted them and she had plans.
Well, Ripper's like, grab the handcuffs for later, and I don't know, maybe they were just both like, let's,
We find out that the sacrifice is babies, and so a bunch of Trix vampires go to the hospital to take the babies.
And even within that, Giles knows demon lore.
Which I thought was awesome. All of a sudden he's like, wait, I know this one. I know this one. And it is good because he comes through despite the ripperness of the moment.
Yeah.
So.
They both do. Both Joyce and Giles come through. They just need to be directed by Buffy to do it.
And again, we see the mundanity of the mayor's evil, because he's just like on the phone and he's just like, can you move that appointment? Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah. Although, I gotta say, I give them credit. For once, they actually set something up that comes later. Yeah. The exposed gas pipes become relevant shortly. So,
well, and the mayor is so like, I think it's funny, which is the dichotomy of the mayor. that he was actually probably a decent mayor.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like he's getting infrastructure stuff done and things are pretty well organized. He just plans on devouring the whole town later, but it should be a nice place to live before he does.
Right, exactly.
Here is the thing that I don't think anybody really thinks about when we're talking about the mayor. It's like, okay, yes, the mayor wanted to be a gigantic snake, and like he wanted to become the embodiment of an old one. So like one of the first demons. But Sunnydale has been around for like 100 years, and he's been the mayor the entire time.
Well, I don't know if it's established he's the mayor the entire time. Maybe he takes a little break and gets like a patsy in there and then comes back. You know what I mean? Like takes 10 years off.
If he gets a patsy in there, then he's still the fucking mayor.
I know, that's true. But like, just be like, wait, why is it the same mayor and he hasn't aged? You know, there's actually in one of the Tales of the Slayer comics, they set it's just an interesting 1 or 2 panel thing. It's about a Slayer, like the Old West in California. And I can't remember the whole storyline, but like Richard Wilkins rides up on a horse and you can see the founding of Sunnydale.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Well, they do establish that Richard Wilkins established Sunnydale. He created it specifically for demons to feed off of. So yeah, he has run Sunnydale in, one way or another for, I think they do state that it's the centennial year of the founding of Sunnydale.
Yeah.
So for 100 years, Wilkins has run Sunnydale, and town seems to be doing pretty good, except for the fact that people go missing sometimes.
Well, you figure if he wants to keep getting voted in, he wants to be a good mayor, so people like bring him back and not throw him out of power or something. So,
I mean, my headcanon is also that, again, he disappears for a while and comes back basically as his own son.
Right.
Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like he's
that whole
Well, he's done it 3 times. That's why he's
right. He's
Wilkins
done it
the third.
Yeah,
the third. Yeah.
But I mean, like even if like he didn't take a break in between, Sunnydale is such a town. It's the Sunnydale syndrome. It's also it happens in Derry in Stephen King's It. It happens in a lot of stuff that if there's something weird that you just kind of ignore that it's weird. So I fully believe that he could have been the mayor the entire time, and people just like ignore the fact. Because I mean, like I gotta be honest, I can't remember who the mayor of my town is right now.
I can, and there's a running joke in Albuquerque that one guy's been the mayor forever. He hasn't been, but he's been the mayor and then not the mayor and came back and was the mayor again. And then like he's been mayor like 3 times. And so there is a recurring joke in my town.
That's actually the thing where I live. There's somebody who's been the mayor for most of the time that I've lived here. And I've lived here for almost 27, I think probably like 27, 28 years. And she's been the mayor most of the time. I don't think she is anymore, but I still think that she could be.
You see, my town has like legislatures and we have like a supervisor. We don't actually have mayors in my town, but I'm well aware of like who the mayor of New York City has been since like I was born.
Oh yeah.
So,
I know who my mayor is.
I'm sorry who the mayor of New York City is.
You know,
David, I'm even
aware. But it's better. I guess he's better than some alternatives. So
but
I do love that he's taking care of infrastructure problems when he's standing in the sewer, and I just think it's charming.
And he's super smart because the second Buffy shows up, he's like,
bow, howdy,
bye,
howdy, bye.
And credit, I mean, it's definitely late 90s CGI, but Laconis does not look terrible.
No, he's actually pretty good.
I was expecting him to look terrible.
Yeah, no, he looks pretty good. And also, I mean, it's just one of those things for anybody who's ever seen Flesh Gordon, which is the sort of like X-rated Flash Gordon parody, which is actually pretty good. I just like whenever I see like giant snake, my brain goes Penisaurus, and I'm sorry, but that was another goddamn Penisaurus. So
all the snake type monsters on Buffy look like penises. Yeah, it is just like if there's going to be a snake monster on Buffy, it's going to look like a dick.
Yeah.
This one doesn't look that much like a dick.
But it doesn't not look like a dick.
Just
but it's a snake. It's a phallic symbol. It's a
phallic, yeah. But I mean, this, it is late 90s CGI, but it's good late 90s CGI. You can definitely tell that they have a budget now, and they smartly do not show a lot of Laconis.
Yeah.
So I'm hats off to them. They did a really good job.
Yeah.
They will they have done worse jobs in the past, and they will do worse jobs in the future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it's good
Credit to
effects.
them.
I mean, I honestly expected, because it's such a nothing part of the story, that they wouldn't have put that much work into it, and it would have been awful. But it actually is not that bad.
Yeah.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
And
No.
I do. And once again, Buffy is so great at scanning her environment and being so great in the heat of a battle about, oh, what can I do with this pipe? I can set this thing on fire. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, it just shows how ingenious she is and how good she is in a crisis moment. Sometimes she's not great in a non-crisis moment, but she's great in a crisis moment.
I was going to say, I also like the fact, like David had talked earlier about how we had to have, why don't they just, stab things? Why don't we, or stake things? Why do we have to have an action scene?
Mhm.
I like the fact that we actually don't have much of an action scene here when it comes to Laurconis. It's like the Indiana Jones moment of pulling out the gun and shooting the guy. It's really good use of her time in this space and just like, fuck this. I'm just going to set the damn thing on fire.
Although again, it takes her a while to actually stake the vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this fight, I mean, it's really a nothing fight because the fight's not important.
Right.
Not important. No.
We've already, once we get to the lair, then, the story's basically over. I like that Joyce is involved with this rescue. This is the only
I
time
do too.
that Joyce is involved in any sort of dangerous situation where she's not in danger.
Right.
She is part of the rescue team.
Well, she's
And I
not
love her
usually dressed
reaction,
like
too.
Juice Newton. So
It was the coat. The coat makes her a superhero. I love the fact that this is the way she reacts to the babies. I mean, that's one of the things when I wrote about it, just her like, but the babies. It's just, I don't know, it's something that's so sweet about it and so like very Joyce, because she's a mom and she gets the baby thing.
But once Laconis is gone and Trick has, taunted Buffy and gone up through the manhole,
they always have to say something.
they always have to say something, yeah. And Joyce says that Buffy can blow off the SATs, and Buffy's
knows.
I'm gonna go do it because Buffy's got a new sense of responsibility.
She does, and because Giles must do a pretty good job with prepping, because you see Giles helping Buffy study, right?
Yeah,
right.
He must do a great job because she gets a good score on her SATs.
Yeah, though I have to say, I bet the SATs were delayed anyways because
I'm sure they were,
chaos.
but the chaos. But hey, I just had a thought. I mean, this is just me being silly. What about the people with diabetes or that are allergic to chocolate? Were they just like fucked off anyway?
Well, maybe they had like a sugar-free or,
sugar-free candy bar. Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, they have sugar-free chocolate, so I'm sure they did that. The allergies, maybe
or
there's
even
something
better,
else.
carob.
No!
It doesn't matter. They don't need to get everybody, just as long as they get like 75% of the people.
I get you. I just was being facetious.
Yeah, I know. We get a brief scene of the mayor menacing Mr. Trick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am a little disappointed we didn't get more Ethan in this episode. He's there.
Yeah.
But it's not an episode that revolves around Ethan at all. No. He's sort of this minor player that's there to move pieces around, but it's Giles and Joyce's episode.
Yeah, I always
He serves a function, but it could have been anyone.
Yeah, maybe when they first wrote it, it was somebody else. They just got a, subcontractor A, and then somebody said, "Hey, let's bring back Ethan because people know him, and it's shorthanded. And then we can do this stuff with Tony and blah blah blah." So.
I actually wonder if it's kind of the reverse. If the precipice of this episode was let's turn Giles into Ripper again, bringing Ethan in to have the Ripper
with him.
Yes, exactly. It was them on top of the police car.
Hey, it could have been. You know that they got down.
I know that they have.
You know that Ethan and Giles got down.
I totally do. But I'm wondering if in the original version, if maybe Ethan's part was pared down from the original.
Bigger.
Yeah.
Like they decided to make the thematic change of making it about parents and kids and responsibility, and Joyce and Buffy,
plausible too.
And instead of Ripper and Giles.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a theory. This is,
interesting.
If Jane comes to Galley next year, maybe I'll go to her coffee class. I'll ask.
There you go. Yeah. I did notice that on the DVD, one of the special features is an original script.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we should
most of those are
take a look at that.
Most of the original scripts they have released. I've got them all in a book. Up until about season
Are those
4.
the original? Well,
original scripts or shooting scripts?
Okay, so what they usually release is like the shooting script.
Mm-hmm.
Like the most of the original scripts that they have published are not actually original scripts.
Right.
They're more like second drafts and a couple of deleted scenes in there you might not have seen.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Well, for what it's worth, what it says in the DVD menu is original script.
Yeah, but they play
I know. I
that.
could be anything.
The
but...
only original script that I know that exists, and it's not something that they've ever officially released, but somehow got out there, is when they did Corrupt, which was the original version of Lonely Hearts for Angel. Which we will talk about when we get there, because boy, that's something to talk about. But yeah, no, I'm wondering if possibly they'd planned for a bigger part for Ethan involved with the whole Ripper thing, but then they, pared back his role, and it's like, well, we already have Robin Sachs. We already have Robin Sachs, so let's, keep him in there. And his part was just smaller.
You know how we always talk about in an alternate universe, right? Like, oh, I'd love to see that in an alternate universe, that this was an episode about Giles reverting, and him and Ethan reverting and just fucking up the town. Like that would be so cool in an alternate universe. In this universe, I'm pretty damn happy with this episode.
Oh yeah. Well, we have one last small scene of
Kiss rocks. Why would anybody want to kiss rocks?
Yeah. One thing I noticed, it's like, I hate Xander in this episode because basically the only thing Xander does in this episode is cheat on Cordelia. But he has one of her homecoming campaign posters in his locker.
Yes.
Yes, I did notice that.
And I'm like, oh, why do you have to be so sweet when you suck so badly?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And then the little end of the episode where Buffy's thinking that she might have done okay, but she's worried. And Giles and Joyce having their little moment.
But the SAT dialogue, again, calls back that original piece from the beginning of the episode. And so she's like, I don't know, I felt so... Like, and you think she's going to talk about, like, the band candy and the, all that stuff, and she's talking about her SATs.
Right.
I do think... Now, Joyce did not know how bad of a driver... But I mean, she knows how bad of a driver is. But why would you make her pay back the car damage?
I was going to say, like,
after all the chaos that went down that night, you would think that Joyce would be like, just let the insurance take care of it. Fuck it.
Absolutely.
And also, it wasn't Buffy's fault. The other guy actually T-boned her.
Yes,
I mean, she was driving badly, but he hit her.
But did Buffy get the guy's insurance information?
Well, the guy ran off.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like...
She could have gotten his license
and there was other stuff going on, but
there was other stuff going on.
I don't think Buffy got his license.
It's the way Joyce puts it. It's like, Buffy assures me that this was done in the process of fighting evil, so I'm going to let her pay it off in installments. Bullshit, Joyce. You know what was going on. You clearly remember taking a day return to Bonetown with Giles. And
stealing shit out of a window.
Twice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what was going on. And you're still going to make Buffy pay it back?
Yeah, that's a
bullshit
from Joyce. A serious dick.
I am giving Joyce a pass on it because it almost sounds a little playful the way she puts it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think she's more teasing Buffy, and considering Buffy's fabulous outfits that she will have this season, especially when she gets to like prom and everything, I don't think Joyce is actually making her pay for the car.
I don't think Joyce has earned the benefit of the doubt yet.
At this point, she's earned the benefit of the doubt for me. And also, where is Buffy going to get the fucking money? So
there's that.
Right. From her allowance. Her allowance would just be docked, I guess. As well.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about the way she says it. I still want to like smack her.
Yeah. It's
after
just...
everything that went through, like, stop.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think we've reached the point of final thoughts. And if people don't realize what we think about this episode, after listening to it, we love this episode.
This is just this is a fun episode. It really is.
I have something really serious to say though. Did you guys realize that Giles is so fucking hot that I can hardly contain myself? That is the most serious thing. Like, you guys don't even understand.
Giles is seriously hot, but aside from that, because that's been very well established, this is an amazing first outing for somebody.
No, it's fabulous.
Any of the other writers that we've had come in, usually their first episodes are kind of shaky. And I can't think of anyone where it's just like their first episode was anything as good as this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Andy's looking that up. I am a huge fan of Jane Espenson. I love
I love her.
I especially love her writing.
No, I will say Drew Goddard's first episode, Selfless, is one of my very favorites.
Okay, the Selfless,
the one
is
with
good.
Anya in season 7. I love that episode.
Okay.
So Drew Goddard would be in there with me too.
Okay, yeah, but this is definitely...
But that's way down the line.
Yeah.
So
but yes, this is definitely a very strong first episode.
So great.
Yeah, very much.
Tony, Christine, and Armin are just so amazing in this. They are the so MVPs of this. It's like, Sarah is also really good in this, but she's completely owned. Like, I hope all of those kids who were in this episode were watching the adults acting, and
seriously, because they're just like, everybody's so on point and perfect. So.
Yeah.
Oh, they're great. They're fabulous. Yeah. I mean, this is one of those ones that is so rewatchable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly rewatchable. It's so fun. It's
I mean, honestly, I watched
great.
it at least 10 times in a row to write my essay, and it was not a chore. I was just like, oh, tee-hee, I get to watch this again. Yeah. Maybe I'll pick up something new and different, as compared to like certain other episodes for other books that I've written, where it was like, okay, yeah, I gotta watch it because I gotta write notes. Kill me now.
And of course, our listeners must realize at this point, since we often mention, I have a note. When we're watching an episode, we do write down notes as to, things that we want to mention. And with this episode, it's one of those episodes where I had trouble making notes, not because I didn't want to say anything about it, but just because I wanted to watch the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to miss anything, because it's just so funny. And when you have to stop and make notes, and you kind of interrupts the rhythm of the episode. And this episode is just so fun that if I had had time, I probably would have watched it again and just watched it straight
I think
through.
this might be in my top 10, all-time top 10.
I think it might be
for
in mine
sure.
Too. It's definitely...
It's really great.
It's going to be very high up there in at least the season 3 wrap-up.
Oh, it's way up
totally.
there in season 3, for sure.
So there's a couple of trivia from this episode. So according to the Sunnydale High yearbook, the chocolate sales were $600,000.
Wow. That's pretty good.
You could buy a totally different band for that.
Yeah. No, honestly, I mean, they probably put the sales figures that high to be, as a joke.
Funny.
But for a normal band, I bet it would be $1,000, maybe $2,000.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah.
So
right, but normally bands don't sell addictive cursed candy.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's the problem. They should.
Here's the funny thing: they raised that much money, and by the end of the year, there's no more Sunnydale High School.
Right.
True.
Did the band ever get their trip to Florida, or their new uniforms?
It was for uniforms, yeah. So
yeah,
because those fuzzy hats go with everything.
Yeah.
And in terms of music, we have quite a bit of music in this episode. When the Scooby Gang are walking at the school, they play Blaze by Mad Cow. At the Bronze, 4-Star Mary, aka Dingo's Ain't My Baby, perform Violent. When Oz, Buffy, and Willow are talking, Slip Jimmy by Every Bit of Nothing is playing. The adults sing Louie Louie.
Yes, they do.
And last but definitely not least, Giles and Joyce listen to Tales of Brave Ulysses by Cream.
Woo!
And that
and
will get a very sad
he will
callback.
Listen to it. Yeah, we'll get a sad callback of that later.
In the episode Forever, Giles listens to it after Joyce's funeral, which is we need to talk.
Yeah,
Andy, talk about how Giles is hot, because we can't go out on this note.
Just call me Angel of the morning. Angel. I gave you a little Juice Newton there.
I do have an amusing observation.
Okay.
We see Joyce take her gum out before she starts making out with Giles at one point. There's another scene where they're about to make out, and Giles is chewing gum right before he makes out with her. He does not take the gum out of his mouth. He's just like, I'm going for it.
I'm pretty sure they just switched pieces of
I was going to say, that's probably Joyce's gum.
It was a gum swap.
Yeah. Okay, that's a note to go out on.
That is a note to go out on.
So
I'm glad I could help.
So next week we'll be reviewing Revelations. Until then, grr, arg.
Giles is hot.
Grr, arg.
Grr, arg, mate. We'd like to thank everyone who downloaded the podcast, and an extra special thanks to everyone who shared, liked, and subscribed on social media. If you'd like your questions or comments read on the show, you can contact us on our website, returntothehellmouth.com, on YouTube, Tumblr, and Facebook at Return to the Hellmouth, on Twitter at HellmouthReturn, or on email at returntothehellmouth@gmail.com. We'll be sure to read your comments on the show. Be sure to rate our show at iTunes and Stitcher, and check out our show merchandise on TeePublic and Redbubble. Also check out our sister podcasts, Drag Hags and the Trash Compactor podcast. See you on Tuesday.
Grr, arg.